Unraveling a web of deceit. Thousands of messages reveal a shocking truth.
Messages that were exchanged between October 29th and November 1st, 2024, a staggering volume of activity within just 4 days. And one recurring message appeared 81 times, reading, "Would you be interested in buying my nudes so I can get baby diapers?" Okay. During a November 22nd, 2024 interview with Child Protective Services, Stapp allegedly made also a pivotal admission. According to the affidavit, Stapp states she lied to the FBI agent about getting a new phone, and the phone currently in her possession was the phone she used to access Snapchat, stating, "I wanted the FBI to leave." So that confession, combined with the digital evidence that we're talking about and the Snapchat records, it led to her arrest.
Disgusting.
Professor, back to you. We were talking about this before we came on. From your experience, does this seem like a slam dunk case, or are there questions that...
Yeah, we hope it's a slam dunk case. We're going to listen to what she says, but Kung Fu Panda says filming equipment was in Jen's room as well. I don't know if there was filming equipment in Jen's room. I don't know. Did we find a tripod or something there? They didn't talk a lot about her room. They talked about room number 4. Absolutely too many cases fall victim. It's important to give victims and their family resources and a platform, and it's huge. Erickson, people are so grateful when you give them a voice and nobody else is. All right, what up, straight out of Cali? Good to see you, Cali Griot. How you doing? Some women should not be born with a reproductive system. Yeah, it seems, right?
Weren't properly articulated in the probable cause affidavit that you say, "I'm still not sold."
So a case like this centers around what we call ESI, electronically stored data, or electronically stored information. And of course, that electronically stored information.
So they found a tripod, and I figured they found some things in there, just like the crock, the mysterious extra crock that Maddie, that came off of her foot. And I think the only way that crock could have fell off of her foot was if Stefan was bringing her through Jen's room, or maybe it happened in Jen's room. But they found a camera or a tripod in her closet, but they didn't make that they didn't say, "Oh, we think that she's filming in her room." They just found a tripod. And I don't remember them talking about finding a camera there. But I mean, a lot of people have cameras in their room, not set up for CSAM purposes. What's up, Lisa Lynn? Better late than never.
Information is the basis for a lot of prosecutions now in the age of AI, in the age of deep fakes, in the age where everything is communicated via cellular technology and digital technology. This is something that courts are very, very used to receiving. My concern with the evidence here is I would like to see a little bit more in terms of the record. So if the defendant claims that her account was hacked, that it was hijacked, that it was revoked as of October 18th or whatever the date was, I would want to see the correspondence from or with Snapchat indicating when that compromised date was. Perhaps it predates when these alleged messages were sent and the offer for trafficking of her daughter was sent. The other thing I'd love to see is ownership records of the Cash App account.
Yes, that's good. We want to see this lady's Cash App so we can charge her with more. This was a bigger investigation than just the 7-month-old, which is plenty for me. If you can save one child, but there was 2, and then she still had 5 other children. What was her Cash App looking like over the last few years? And yeah, Jen's cousin, not only Jen's cousin, Dina, I hope I'm saying your name right. Dina McGibbon says Jen's cousin says, "Don't be fooled by Jen. She's sneaky, smart, and is acting dumb." She's not the only one that said that. Her roommate, the ex-roommate that we still never got to see because she didn't want to be that involved, said the same thing. Said that Jen would have panic attacks and go check herself in so she can get her DRUGs. Yeah, she played that. She wasn't as dumb as we all think. All right, or we originally thought. And Leanne, if you're heading off to bed, good night.
I'd love to see ownership records of the PayPal account, because the version or the defense will always be that these accounts may have featured a photograph of this particular defendant. It doesn't mean that she had access, dominion, control, or ownership over these accounts to actually receive payments if in fact these payments were being remitted. So I think in that sense, the investigators certainly have put together a strong case. if I were the prosecution, I'd like to see more warrants executed and more records produced to show ownership and access to all of the devices and all of the accounts that are at issue in this case.
To be clear, if they can prove that she said, I lied to the FBI, does that make everything else, does that confirm?
So why are they giving Jen Soto that deal where she lied several times? I mean, now we look back and we see so many lies, and they even let her correct herself with the lawyer about the lies she told. We haven't really listened to what they said yet, but I think that I know what she's going to say. And yeah, Kung Fu definitely genuinely cared about herself, and that's why she's a dumb momster as well. This is 2.0, but what? Yeah, why isn't Jen Soto being arrested for this? And I wonder if they're looking at a bigger trafficking situation with 35,000 images. And what did Jen have on her phone? What did Jen have in her cloud? Remember, Jen wanted to be a hacker. She wanted to be a computer person. What does that mean? What was she doing? What does she know? What did she have? What was in her phone? What was she doing that night that Maddie was supposed to be asleep with Stefan?
That she was operating that account and sending this money or trying to receive this money? Or does that suggest, hey, she might have lied to the FBI or admitted she lied to the FBI, but that doesn't confirm all of the digital evidence? Or do we treat it as two separate things?
No, I like that question. I like how you phrase it, because you give me a chance to talk about my favorite rule of evidence that we were talking about before we started filming as well. There's a concept, there's a legal concept in evaluating credibility, which is false in one, false in all. And that's why the jury is so important in our system, because it is entirely up to the fact finder in a criminal trial to determine who they believe, what witnesses they believe, and how much they believe from those witnesses. And so it's completely up to a jury to say, you know what, this person admitted having lied on one occasion. That colors the rest of their testimony or the rest of their version of what happened. So we're going to disregard everything else they say happened. Or they could say, it's completely within the jury's purview to say this person may have lied about this one specific thing. Anybody would be unnerved to be interviewed by the FBI or to be the subject of a very sensitive investigation like this. We could understand why she would have been less than honest in this regard. But gee, we don't really think that she lied about everything else in the investigation. I'm not saying that that's what a jury would find. I'm saying that that is within.
Right. We always got to be careful, guys, because there's never a slam dunk in a case. You never know where a juror is coming from, right? You can have 12 jurors and 2 of them maybe were struggling moms at one point that would say anything to anybody to get anything. And somebody brought a good point up earlier and said, playing devil's advocate here, what if she was telling these men that, hey, I'm going to give you my 7-month-old and my 2-year-old when you get here, but send me the money now. And then she didn't, maybe she blocked them after, or maybe she, who knows what level that she went to. But FBI knows, FBI and multiple law enforcement agencies have that information. I'd love to get my hands on the evidence. Again, it's coming up in September. I wonder if between now and then she's going to take a plea. How the heck can you go and say not guilty for something like this? I just don't get it. All right. Millie says, I'm looking through the merch and can't decide what I want. That's a good problem to have, Millie. Get some for the summertime. I love my guilty of crime hat. My hat keeps me cool. It keeps me from the sun. Also, the towels and the blankets are really cool. They're not towels, but I love blankets, couch blankets. Anyway, good problem to have. Foxy says, I feel like I'm getting hep just looking at her picture.
And the jury's purview to say we either believe her entirely, we don't believe her at all, or we believe bits and pieces of what she said in the midst of this investigation. However, there is a powerful rule of evidence that says if there is evidence of a dishonest character, if this defendant chose to take the stand and testify in her own defense, the fact that she lied on a previous occasion could be used to show that she is someone of dishonest character, of untruthful character. And that could also be used by the jury to weigh her credibility and consider her a dishonest or an incredible witness.
By the way, how common is it for social media companies like a Snapchat to identify and report suspected child sex trafficking, exploitation, abuse to law enforcement? Is it common? Do they have a legal obligation to do so?
I believe they are mandatory reporters. I believe there is a requirement that if there is subject matter like this, that it's flagged, that it's required that they report it to law enforcement.
Now, somebody walked in and said, "What's up with Jen Soto?" Jen Soto is still doing what Jen Soto does. She's hiding out. I believe that, and I believe that she'll absolutely be on the stand when the trial comes, if there's not a plea deal, and definitely for the capital case. I'm sure she's on the list of witnesses. Jen Soto is Jen Soto. She's dumb potato number one. This is Jen Soto 2.0, who sold her daughter, not one, but two, in exchange for SEX. And it was a bigger operation that they were uncovering. It wasn't just this dumb momster that they were looking at. They were looking at a whole picture, and Snapchat flagged her for having inappropriate information out there about her children. Yes, expose momsters. Momster exposed number one, Jen Soto.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, if these allegations are true, thank goodness that they did, because we wouldn't be talking about this probably. The volume of messages too. Let's just talk about that. The volume of messages, the digital communication.
There's a lot.
7,000 messages.
That's
How does
a
that
lot.
affect the analysis?
Well, again, I'd want to see the records. I think we have to see who this defendant was purportedly or allegedly talking to, what kind of messages were being sent. You know, several years ago, there was a statistic that millennials were sending something like 1,500 texts a month, and that seemed really outrageous and over the top. I think that's pretty average, if not below average at this point.